Some people have been worrying about my health as of lately, and I just want to say that I've made some more connections since the last time I've commented on my health. I think I have something similar to, and don't quote me on this because I still have to research it, manganese madness, which is an irreversible, fatal, neurological, psychiatric degenerative syndrome. Um, it's something that had plagued manganese miners in the first half of the last century. Um, why would manganese, a trace mineral, cause problems in people? Well, we're going to connect this to a problem that's been occurring overseas, to mad cow disease, or also called kuru, or they put a three-letter definition to it. It turns out that eating meat from these animals who have these prions will give you the condition of mad cow disease. They said they were working on a vaccine. So far, a vaccine hasn't been forthcoming. And I apologize because I have red blotches all over my face, a red haze on my face, and I think it's from being ill. So before I put my foot in my mouth, it says there are a few things you could under a physician's care, you could use 1 kilogram take for 1 kilogram of body weight, or maybe, I'm not sure, but it says take 800 milligrams. LD 50 is about 800 milligrams per kilogram. Potassium thiocyanate and hydroxyl, or NH4 2SO4, guanidinium, if I got that right, and trichloroacetate, a non-chartrori. Sorry, I couldn't say the name of that last. Anyway, I didn't read much into that, but I looked at one home remedy. They suggested DMSO. DMSO is being studied to treat prion disease. DMSO is a toxic chemical over a long period of time, they believe. So it might not be something that's efficacious. They say DMSO disables the prions temporarily unless they reconstruct themselves. Well, what are prions? It turns out that prions are necessary agents in the body that protect us from ultraviolet radiation. They protect it's in our eyes. Prions come with us in our eyes, in our skin, and other things to protect us against too much radiation. And there's a scientific theory that it acts as a protection against against chemical oxidation and other things. However, it turns out that the reason why, there's a causative reason why cows and cattle and other things get mad cow disease. It's because, well, while they might be eating dead carcasses from previously infected animals and are getting it that way, it turns out that what the Nazis were working on to be as a nerve agent, organophosphate pesticides. The Nazis were engineering these chemicals to do nerve damage to people in battle, in war, and whatnot. Well, later on, other big name companies, Monsanto and other things, took this idea, this organophosphates, which is in pesticides, and it's in lice, lotion, and flea powders, and such. and on the stuff we spray for bugs and whatnot. And so they spray these things directly onto the cattle to repel to repel bugs and flies away from the cattle. But when they spray this pesticide onto certain areas of the cow, or on any part of the cow, especially a certain region of the cow's body where the flies are attracted, it causes those prions in their body to be bound onto magnesium or onto organophosphate chemicals. The prion then becomes unstable, and then when it reaches the brain level, it causes a burning sensation. It burns the cattle's optical. It disrupts their optical nerves and whatnot. Too much ultraviolet radiation gets through the eye, and so it causes the deformity. These now free radical agents cause a deformation in their brain, and so that's what I learned. It just takes a few drops of DMSO, they say, to temporarily stop the or to temporarily disable the to drink that every day, to disable the prions that have been mutated. And I'm very, very upset about this cover-up. Indeed, I did experience inflammation in my brain and whatnot. I think it was 2 chemical exposures over time. Like I was asked to clean out the chicken coop. Of course, I helped powder it down with flea powder, and then I sprayed for insects with the normal agent. Later on, there was in where I live, there was an increase in spiders, and my neighbor got bit by a brown recluse spider. I think that those chemical exposures caused some asthma in me, and then led later on to a prion mutation and overload in me. But that's not all of the chemical cover-up when it comes to raising cattle and whatnot. It turns out that foods that are high in manganese, get it right, not magnesium, but manganese, a trace essential mineral, will cause prions when the cattle get too much of it, or if they have an unbalanced diet, or other things that would get manganese. And farmers spray manganese and other of these organophosphates onto salt licks and onto the land and other things. And so it's no wonder why over in Great Britain, where they use organophosphates to control their fly population, why they're having such a higher incidence of problems over there than we are having. Also, copper. Too much copper will also cause a problem in your body with prions. So that's what I've uncovered. We're still waiting to see if there's a vaccine against these prions, but right now I'm suspicious of it. It just confirmed my worst fears that the FDA once again is allowing farmers to use these substances. And right now there's no way to reverse it, other than maybe those first chemical substances that I mentioned, and I don't know where you would get them. The potassium thiocyanate, or the thiocyanate and hydroxyl NH4 2SO4, the guanidinium and the richloroacetate, and the anonchanotrate. Okay, so the DMSO is sold sometimes in health food stores if you can find it, but because it's not known to be very toxic, but it isn't necessarily known to also be benign. But you'd have to take DMSO forever, for the rest of your life, and it was not meant to be taken for forever. But what it would do is it would disable those prions so that maybe your body has time to remove some of the plaque and some of the other things caused by the free radical prions now. So because this was an article on the internet, and I'm sure anyone could find it, find that article, and that's where I'm at. It's going to take some serious health using of health foods, of watching what I eat, to reverse what's this cascade that happened on me. And if I'm wrong, but no doctor so far has been able to pinpoint any viral, bacterial, parasites causality to what's causing me to be bedridden. A great part of it, to have dropsy upon standing. The red flush in my face, the myalgia-like symptoms, the numbness in my extremities, the numbness in my, or the fiery sensation at the bottom of my brain, my mind. My difficulty breathing, my gastritis, the bad gas, and the strange bowel movements which come and go. So and it's like at first it started out with flushing on my hands, and I think that's when I had been first exposed to that pesticide. So it's not the prion that's the cause of the mad cow disease. It's the chemicals that change the prions that may and be in our bodies and may have and have to be there to protect us against ultraviolet light and radiation and free radicals, that other chemicals that are in our environment. And just enough exposure to too much manganese and organophosphates, pesticides, or too much copper, problems with balanced things in your diet and food, is what cause that, what set that off. And it really does burn. The prions really do cause a burning sensation. It's mild to moderate, but it can also be persistent at times. I also believe that using too much pharmaceutical drugs can also be a causative agent for the prions to change. Too many psychiatric medications and other things might indeed mimic some the effects that these organophosphates are having. Because think about it. These psychiatric drugs are not natural, found in nature, nor in our body. And so I would advise people to change their lifestyle, their eating habits, what they're taking in. I think maybe even Tylenol or Aleve or any number of things, maybe aspirin, might also set off these prions. But I personally have never heard of anyone that I know coming down with this litany of symptoms, although they said that treating your children or your pets with flea lotion or lice lotion or other things, or dusting your animals and stuff for that, might set off these prions in your body to mutate, so that in the future it might cause Alzheimer's. The article didn't just leave it at mad cow disease or prions, but that these prions might do the same thing as Alzheimer's. So I'll have to leave it at that and encourage people to get away from these chemicals, to get away from their ant sprays and whatnot. It would only do us a lot of good. When you consider that essential oils might be very useful in repelling insects and whatnot, that we spray our cattle too much over the spinal cord area and other things to keep away these flies. When they ingest that pesticide, that can set off the prions in them, and it burns the poor animals. When they die, they might be seen as having mad cow disease, but it's not a viral or bacterial agent or whatnot. It's something that had mutated in their own body, or that they had been fed, but it didn't become that way on its own. It became that way through the chemical exposure of too much copper, too much manganese being sprayed on their soil and their salt licks, and also too much soy food, or it's called too much soybeans, when they genetically alter our food, such as the soybeans, it becomes a hazard because those Monsanto engineered soybeans or other genetically altered food variants become more hardy, but then they absorb more organophosphates into them, systemically, of course, and that becomes dangerous for us. Also, these engineered, these genetically modified, changed plants that have been engineered also are bad for our DNA, because when our body takes in the DNA of these plants, it replaces our DNA with it, parts of that. So you have to realize that this is not safe. It's going to hurt our cattle the more we feed them the wrong kinds of diets and wrong kinds of foods. Genetically engineered soybeans are going to absorb more of this organophosphates. The genetically modified thing that's not found in nature is going to hurt us for consuming them. The humans, it's just not natural. It's not right. I can't believe how these big companies think that it's okay to give people false hope about these things and not advertise for them. I'm also glad that we're moving away from toxic slime in our beef. It's a way to save money. But come on, we want to know what we're eating. We don't want to cover up. We don't want beef that has different parts of the animal being used in it. I think precisely for the reason about prions, how when we spray the cattle down with these pesticides, it causes prions in the cattle. And that's exactly the areas that we're using, in my estimation, to recycle into the normal part of the cow, their muscle, and to add it to that, and then to top it off with ammonia. Prions cannot be destroyed by heat, by any chemical that we know in general, other than maybe DMSO. You can wash your meat with DMSO if you want, but it'd be very expensive. I can't believe that all these years we were not told, warned on the label, this product contains trace amounts of ammonia or high amounts of ammonia and other rendered parts from the cow or the animal. It's very upsetting, and they need to start giving consumers a choice. Because you know what? I think ammonia is just going to do all the more harm to the problem. Maybe it might act like an organophosphate. It might cause those prions to mutate, and it might cause bad reactions in us. So, okay, I'll get off my soapbox, and I hope that some of this information was useful.